Hi there guys, this is Ash. Just here to bring you a little present while I'm working on some more videos. You see, what you probably didn't know about me is that I actually write articles for a online film magazine from my old school called OL, which loosely translates to The Word. So I get to review movies, and actually this last weekend I got to attend Bloody Weekend, which is Denmark's only horror and general genre film festival. It's my third year running, and this time I was covering it. Like actually writing about it and stuff like that. So that much was awesome. What was really awesome was the guest list. We got Ruggero Deodato, who some of you know for being the guy behind Cannibal Holocaust. And we also got Lloyd Kaufman. Yeah, Uncle Lloydie himself. And given that I was covering this event for this online paper of ours, I managed to land an interview with the guy. And here's the sweet part. I mean, I've just written the article. It's going to go up. It's in Danish, so it can't really help my non-Danish speaking viewers there. However, this is the really cool part. Lloyd, being the wonderful person he is, has allowed me to put the full audio interview on YouTube for you guys to enjoy. And yes, I did say audio. I didn't film this interview. Like I said, it was for an article, so I only brought my Zoom H1 microphone to dictate it all, so I could transcribe it and write the article better. But he has actually allowed me to put the whole thing on YouTube. So what I'm going to give you now is the full 35 minutes unedited audio interview. Complete with me being a complete doof and going, oh, I love that movie every time Lloyd mentions something I like. And complete with Lloyd being a complete doof and answering my questions before I can even finish them. And absolutely constantly nudging the table I put the microphone on. Yeah, you're gonna hear that a lot, but he has a lot of great stuff to say about indie film and, about the attitude in the film industry. And he's just such a fun yet informative guy. And I really thought this is something that you guys would enjoy. So there you have it, my little present for you. A full unedited interview with Lloyd Kaufman by me. Enjoy it. Yeah, all right. Thank you for having me, Kaufman.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jug. Mr.
Yeah,
Jug.
it's a bit difficult, I know. Yeah.
Life is difficult.
Everything is difficult.
And movies are even more difficult.
Oh, yeah.
At least making them.
Yes. So I've read up on you a bit, as you know. You got your start working on big studio films, like, say, Rocky and The Karate Kid, I believe, Saturday Night Fever, and Final Countdown.
Well, I didn't go to film school after Yale University.
Yeah.
I graduated, and I didn't want any more strict education.
Yeah.
So I identified some talented directors, and I worked for them for free or for a very small salary to get the experience.
Yes.
One of them was John G. Avildsen, who did Joe and then Rocky. And Rocky's not a big budget movie. Rocky was a very low budget movie, and the reason we got involved is they needed to film in Philadelphia, and they couldn't afford to bring the fancy union and expensive union crew and equipment from California. So they used the non-union crew that had just done Cry Uncle, which John Avildsen directed, but Troma distributes, and I helped produce it. They used our non-union crew, and all the museum steps, all those exterior locations that are so famous, were supervised by me.
Yeah.
Pre-production supervisor. And when Mr. Avildsen got his Oscar, he actually thanked me.
Oh, cool.
Which is pretty amazing, because most of these guys who get Oscars, they usually thank the bosses and the studio heads and the banks and the money and the money and the money and the money and the money. They don't thank the little people of Tromaville. And John G. Avildsen thanked the little people of Tromaville, including Lloyd Kaufman. He's a hero.
Yeah. Could you please not bump the table?
Oh,
my
sorry.
microphone is a bit sensitive.
Yes, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I believe you've been quoted as saying that the Final Countdown was a big reason you never wanted to work on studio films again.
It was the final. It was the final solution, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. Why was that? What was it about it?
Well, it could have been a great movie. Kirk Douglas is a big hero of mine, and he's one of the great figures of film history. He broke the American blacklist. You you could write many books about the bravery of Kirk Douglas and the genius of Kirk Douglas. And his son, equally talented, not equally perhaps, but his young son, also extremely talented. They had a great movie in the works, but the crew was lazy and, in my opinion, dishonest. And the actors, for the most part, didn't give a shit. And the director was a drunk. And the movie is as good as it is because of Peter Douglas and Kirk Douglas, and maybe me a little bit. But the rest of them, with all due respect, the rest of them weren't too interested, and in some cases were a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
They cared more about the size of their hotel room or about having chairs for lunch. They cared more about that than about the opportunity to film at sea on the USS Nimitz, using real locations and real F-14s, and it was a very difficult production to create. For the most part, the crew and the actors had absolutely no interest, and I will never forget it, and I will never forgive them.
Oh, so that's the charm of independent film as opposed to studio films to you, that it's a passion thing, or is there something else?
Well, when you make your own damn movies, presumably you'll have total control. We make very low-budget movies at Troma Entertainment, but I've had a long run. I've been doing it for 40 years, more than 40 years. And Michael Hers and I have been able to make a lot of movies, and we have total freedom.
Yeah.
And yes, we have to sleep on the floor, and we have to teach our crew and actors how to defecate in a paper bag, but we come up with some pretty interesting stuff. And you look at James Gunn, who just did Guardians of the Galaxy. He worked for Troma. He wrote Romeo and Juliet. You look at Eli Roth, who's in Terror Firmer, Troma movie, and big Troma fan, and did commentary for the DVDs of Bloodsucking Freaks, and most recently he filmed something very special for the Blu-ray of Bloodsucking Freaks.
Oh.
Eli Roth. All sorts of people have either grown up with Troma, like Peter Jackson is a big fan. Quentin Tarantino loves Troma and wears the T-shirt. And what's his name? Samuel Jackson started with Troma. All these talented people either work for us or have grown up with Troma. So, we've had a pretty good impact on the countryside. The only problem is we don't make any money.
Yeah.
Other than that, life is beautiful.
Sounds like it. You mentioned Michael Hers, and you've been working together with him for a really long time.
Yes.
How did that come about, exactly?
Michael Hers and I were at Yale University, but he went to summer camp with my brother, Charles Kaufman.
Oh.
Charles Kaufman made Mother's Day, which is Eli Roth's favorite horror film of all times. My brother wrote and directed Mother's Day, and my sister did the art direction on Mother's Day, production design, and it's one of the best produced genre movies in history. The art design and production design is very, very good. It's so interesting. Lots of little details. And Eli Roth talks about it on the Make Your Own Damn Movie DVD box set. Michael was introduced to me when I was at Yale by my brother. I had a television set. It was one of those black and white sets where you had to bang the top of it in order to get it to turn on. And he wanted to watch TV. He hated me, but I had a television, and he wanted to watch TV. So he'd come in my room, and we'd watch TV, and I would try to canoodle a little bit, but he was not interested. And then he went to law school after Yale, and I made a couple of crappy movies, and learning a bit. And then when he was finished with law school, Michael decided he too would like to ruin his life and be a independent auteur filmmaker.
Right.
I speak fluent French. I am a very, very well-educated and intellectual person, as the people at Bloody Weekend will tell you. And I read the Cahiers de Cinéma, and I was brainwashed by Godard and Chabrol and the other writers who propounded the auteur theory of filmmaking.
Yeah.
So I bought into all that, and I felt that it's the director's event, that the director should have total control over everything. And I was inspired by Renoir and Fritz Lang and Stan Brakhage and Andy Warhol and of course John Ford, Howard Hawks, Samuel Fuller, Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, the great Mizoguchi from Princess Yang Guifei. So I immersed myself in those kinds of auteur films, and the next thing we had was the Aroma du Troma.
It's wonderful. By the way, I just need to mention this. I actually have a Mother's Day poster at home. I very much like them.
Isn't that a great film? I mean, it really is.
I just moved this. So
and my brother also made When Nature Calls, which is a hilarious movie. And if you look at the Grindhouse movie by Tarantino and the other guy, it's like When Nature Calls. My brother did it 20 years earlier. I'm no joke.
All right, so
I'm not saying they copied him, but you know, When Nature Calls is just as good and funnier, much funnier than Grindhouse.
Speaking of great films and big successes, it wouldn't be wrong to say that the Toxic Avenger was your biggest success.
Well, it's certainly that's our Mickey Mouse. The Toxie is the trademark of the company, and it's been 4 sequels and a cartoon show and a Broadway musical and toys and pajamas and children's.
A bunch of crappy video games.
All sorts of, many crappy video games. In fact, the Angry Video Game Nerd hates those video games.
I saw that.
You saw the Angry Video Game Nerd?
I'm also a fan of his.
By the way, he acts in Volume 2 of Return to Nukem High.
Oh, I actually didn't know
So when it comes out, watch for that. And I am in his film.
That I did know, but I haven't seen it yet. But about Toxie, did you have these high hopes for the character? Did you ever expect him to take off like this?
I think every movie we make is really... Oops, sorry.
Yeah,
I'm destined to fuck that thing up. I think every movie we make, Jug, is a masterpiece. In all honesty. We spend years on Tromeo and Juliet, 5 years, just to write the script. Toxic Avenger was probably... I think it was a year about just thinking, and then another year writing, and another year... it was probably 3 years of my life. I think every movie Troma makes is a really good movie, and I think in the fullness of time, people will see it that way, and people are starting to see it that way. After 40 years, the Museum of Modern Art in New York premiered Return to Nukem High Volume 1, only half the movie, Volume 1, along with David Lynch, the Coen brothers, Sofia Coppola, the guy who did that boring lesbian movie that won the Cannes Prize. Blue is the biggest balls, or something. Blue balls are the biggest, whatever it was. But they had a series called The Contenders at Museum of Modern Art. They have it every year with what they call the best movies from around the world.
Yes.
And Return to Nukem High Volume 1 was put in that series. And so we are getting a lot more artistic appreciation from the intelligentsia, but it takes 40 years. So I think our movies are really good. And I am not surprised that The Toxic Avenger has been a big success, because the kinds of superheroes that have been, the kind of movies about superheroes that are coming out since the 80s are different from before. I think Toxic Avenger had a big influence on those, combining the humor and the violence and the politics. And the Toxie was there first. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Of your own movies, this is just a personal choice question. Of your own movies, which would you say is the best one? Or do you
I think when the dust settles, when the toxic dust settles, Return to Nukem High Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think that 2-part movie is going to be my Round Tower by King Christian IV. I think it will be my Sistine Chapel. It will be my Pieta.
Nice job slipping in a Danish reference there, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're known for being very approachable for taking roles in independent films, often working for scale or for nothing.
For nothing, yes.
Other than a room.
If there's no money, for nothing.
Yeah. Is there a particular reason you do this, other than just giving this movie a little boost with your name attached to it?
Well, I learned, actually, I've been filming behind the scenes some of those underground movies. Yes. And the young people are the innovators. You know, there are not too many people who are 60 years old who are doing much that's original. And young people are the ones who are innovating. And when I'm on a set of some of these smaller movies, I'm seeing how they are doing it, because now the making of cinema has been democratized, right? Yeah. Everyone can make a movie. It costs nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know anything about the digital media. I know everything about 35 millimeter. I know how to take the camera apart, put it back together. I know the lenses. I know the lighting. I know how to do everything. I know how to do nothing with digital. So when I am seeing these young people and how they are filming and shooting and some of the tricks they are learning and how they are making movies for $25,000 or $5,000.
Oh yeah.
I am learning a lot. And if you go to the Troma Make Your Own Damn Movie channel on YouTube,
I've been following it.
I've put many. Maybe you can mention it in your article because it's all free.
Sure.
And every week we put up a new lesson. Oh, God damn it! We put up a new video lesson. Sometimes it's an interview with John Avildsen, who directed Rocky, or Stan Lee, or Roger Corman, or Eli Roth, or sometimes it's a lesson on how to raise money. We filmed an investor audition, and how we present our projects to investors. Sometimes it may just be something simple like how do you dismember a leg from somebody.
Yeah.
But the Make Your Own Damn Movie channel is very important for us. I want to raise the profile of independent art because we are all getting swamped by the big mega conglomerates, and the public needs to know that there's a huge community of independent thinking, independent art, and independent entrepreneurs who perhaps are innovating and dealing more with emotion than with the kroner.
Yeah, thanks for that. You do distribute a lot of indie and DIY films as well at Troma. Is that completely indiscriminately, or do you have some guidelines for quality for you to produce? I
think for Troma to get involved in a movie in any way, it has to be one of a kind.
Yeah.
And it has to create an emotion, and it has to come from the heart of the filmmaker. Other than that, there's not much.
You just have to be able to see the passion, basically.
Well, or then the uniqueness. It has to be something. I mean, Cannibal the Musical was refused by every movie studio in the world. We were the last stop on the train. They were Troma fans, but they knew we had no money. They knew we were incompetent. They knew we were retarded. So we were the last ones, and they were Troma fans, Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and they still are. In fact, they acted in Terra Firma. They played Hermaphrodites, and I've done some interviews with them more recently, and they're great guys. But we saw how brilliant that movie was. Nobody else did. Nobody got it.
It is a brilliant movie.
And Combat Shock. You look at Combat Shock. It was a flop for 15 years. Nobody wanted it. But we invested a lot of money in that film. We put it in a lot of theaters. And finally, 15 years later, suddenly New York Times writes a 2-page article about it. But the media, they're stupid, the mainstream media. The critics, they're not smart. They always want to play it safe, and they also kowtow to the big movies, the big companies that are putting in advertising into their newspapers or their websites. So they ignore very often the visionary independent artist. So Michael Herz and I want to do everything we can to remind the public that the great artists of all time usually come from the ranks of the independents and the people who are the one-of-a-kind type of people.
Yeah. Just a second, I lost my track here.
Take your time.
You did mention that this year marks the 40th year of Troma Studios. What has changed in those 40 years, and where would you like it to go from here? Or are there any plans for celebrating these 40 years or something?
Well, we have no money to celebrate anything. But we have been invited to many retrospectives. The American Cinematheque did a wonderful retrospective, and I believe that Mr. Elliot Elias will show the tribute that the American Cinematheque created for us. It's about 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But they did a retrospective, one Troma movie from each of the 4 decades. In France, there was a retrospective. We had a big deal in Italy, really all over the world. There have been very nice Troma events, and of course the climax of all this has been Blodig Weekend here in Denmark, the most important of all. But we don't have any money to take any advertising and pat ourselves on the back the way the other companies do. So we don't do that. In fact, we usually give awards. We give the Troma diploma to certain people. As far as the change in the industry, I guess the biggest change for us is that, and it's a good one, is that the making of cinema has been democratized. Everyone can make a movie. The money issue is not a big one anymore, and that's great. Everyone can make movies, and a lot more movies are being made, and so there will be a lot more good movies, and that's the good part. The bad part is that the pathway to the public is controlled by a very small number of huge devil-worshipping international media conglomerates who are totally brainwashing the public and blacklisting the independents. The major media does not talk about the independents. The big conglomerates own the newspapers, the theaters. If they don't own them, they control them. The video companies, the TV stations, the small. In my country, a handful of giant conglomerates own everything, and if you are not a partner with one of their vassals, you are not going to have a big public. It's impossible. You cannot survive. You cannot live. And that's why Troma is 40 years old, but we're the only one. No other independent studio is able to survive in the United States, and I think in many other parts of the world, the smaller companies cannot survive because each territory is controlled by one or two giant companies. In my country, the laws that used to protect the public against monopolies, those laws have been done away with by millions of dollars of lobbying by Rupert Murdoch and the others who know how to control the government.
Yeah.
So we are fucked. But we don't need money to make movies. So you can be a teacher or a social worker, or you can be Melvin the Mop Boy, you can be a janitor, and you can still make movies.
Yeah.
So you just might not have, you may not support yourself with the movies. You might not be able to, but if you're a true artist, what's his name? The Le Douanier, the primitive artist. What the hell was his name? God damn it! He did The Peaceable Kingdom. He was a customs official.
Yeah.
What's his name?
I don't know it, so I can.
Well, but in other words, it's not. There were plenty of artists who had day jobs.
Yeah.
Who were accountants or what have you, and then they were great artists at the same time. So that's a perfectly valid way to do it. You don't have to go suck dick to the government to get support for your Danish movie, or operate a parking vehicle in Disneyland. You can do something useful and be a teacher or a blogger or a nurse or a social worker and save up a little money and do a little crowdfunding and put together 5,000 euros and make your own damn movie the Troma way.
Yeah.
But again, the movies I direct, they are $500,000 because I don't know how to do these little movies.
Yeah.
But we are distributing some small movies, and we financed a movie called Father's Day. I think it was $15,000 for the whole movie, and we probably spent $25,000 on marketing, which is nothing. It's absolutely nothing. We have another one that one of our employees, Travis Campbell, directed, and Justin Martell, they work for us, and they made Mr. Bricks, a heavy metal murder musical, Mr. Bricks, which Lemmy gave us a free title song. It's a very good film, and $5,000 for the whole movie, and it's been in many countries. It's been in festivals. We put it in a few theaters in the States. It's very dark and very serious, but it's a wonderful film. And of course, we're producing a movie now, and the budget is maybe $30,000, $25,000. We don't know until it's made.
Yeah.
But that's 1/10 of what, less than 1/10. Return to Nukem High, Volume 1 was $500,000. And Volume 2 will be less, but still $450,000 maybe, $450,000 perhaps, or something like that. But we can make, not we, but we can produce movies by young people who can make them for 5 or 10% of what we were making them, which means it's like a 1/100th of 1% of your typical Hollywood movie.
Oh yeah.
And by the same token, it's very hard. The bad part is, unfortunately, it's impossible to live. You can't eat and have rent being independent unless you are a partner with one of the vassals of the giant conglomerates.
Yeah.
And then you have to compromise, and then you have to, go to people to get judged and audition for people and have meetings and pitch sessions and all that. And that's not easy. I can't do it. My brother couldn't do it. There are people who can do it. Most of them are total shits. But they're also the best people in the world. Trey Parker and Matt Stone are great guys. Eli Roth is a wonderful person. James Gunn is the best. And Guardian of the Galaxy is a masterpiece.
It was awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it was every bit as good as anything you can imagine. It's one of the great movies of all time. And, of course, I have a very important cameo in that film. And probably that has a lot to do with why $300 million in tickets were sold. But, I'm modest, so I don't like to brag.
All right.
But James Gunn is the best in the world. You can't have a better person. But most of the people are scum of the earth. And most of them compromise, and most of them make crap. And that's too bad. Yeah. But there will be lots of good movies coming out of the Democratic side, the micro budgets. There already are, and there will be more and more and more and more. And more eyeballs will look at those, and more people will make little YouTube movies and telephone movies and whatever. And the eyeballs will leave Michael Bay and whatever they're making out in Hollywood, and many eyeballs will leave that and go to the independent and visionary stuff. But that doesn't mean anyone's going to get rich.
No. To my knowledge, you've never been to Denmark before. But last year you did send us Return to Nukem High Volume 1, and now this year you've been invited. Did it in any way surprise you to be invited to Denmark, or learn that you have fans here too?
Well, I have been to Denmark in the 60s.
Oh, you have?
I was here as a 13 or 14-year-old.
Oh, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago, you bet. And I'm glad I went, because the Carlsbad factory gave you all that beer, and the workers were all drunk, and those were the good old days. Now Carlsbad is much stricter, and I'm happy I had that experience. It's wonderful that there are so many fans here in this wonderful Denmark, and in fact, we shot here this week. I came early. Yeah. And Elias Elliott and I, along with Kim Sonderheim, who made Craig, we shot the introductions to the Toxic Avenger Part 2 Blu-ray, and the Toxic Avenger Part 3 Last Temptation of Toxie Blu-ray. We filmed them here in different Danish locations, and the introduction for the Blu-ray of Toxic Avenger Part 2 was kind of a deconstruction of Toxie versus Hamlet, and we actually went to Elsinore Castle, and we found the ghost of whatever, and then for Toxie 3 we examined why is Denmark the happiest land on earth, and we had we went to different locations, and we saw typical Danish men being very happy.
Yeah.
So we've accomplished a lot here in Denmark, and I've noticed in the streets every once in a while someone says, "Hey, Lloyd Kaufman." There seem to be young people, a few every once in a while, maybe. Yeah. But I've noticed in this central area, a few people have come up and asked me for autograph. Yeah. So we must have a market here. We don't really have any distribution. We have very little distribution.
Yeah, unfortunately.
We have a wonderful company in Finland, Night Visions, who distributes our movies, but I don't think they have much clout. It's only Nordisk and those giant devil-worshipping independent international companies that are in cahoots with the governments, and they control everything.
Oops.
I think somebody wants to get in.
Can you not get in?
Apparently you cannot get in.
Oops.
I think you cannot get in.
Is that door just...
I think the door is locked.
Oh.
Yeah, it locks automatically. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I thought you were trying to get in.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
all right.
All right, well, that was great.
Well, it's only a couple more questions.
No problem. Take all your time. You're a good psychiatrist. I feel so much better. I'm feeling, I don't care for this.
Well, I'm happy. Oh,
well,
yeah,
maybe I should leave this.
do what you want with that.
Do what I want with that.
Please.
Okay.
Now, you've written quite a few filmmaking books. You've written 5, I believe, so far?
6 books in total, but
6.
one of them was a novel, the Toxic Avenger novel, which is
right.
now being republished, Adeline. It's being launched.
Right. But you've written these Make Your Own Damn Movie books.
Yes.
And all I need to know about filmmaking, I learned from the Toxic Avenger. And you've even made a DVD set, also called Make Your Own Damn Movie, in that series.
I've made a few of those sets.
A few sets.
Direct Your Own Damn Movie and Produce Your Own Damn Movie.
Oh, right.
And the Make Your Own Damn Movie channel.
Yeah.
And also I have been giving master classes. I just gave a two-day master class in Vienna.
Yeah. Oh.
And then I came here, and I did a master class for 2 days in Oxford University in England, and Yale University, and Singapore. I did one there last December for 2 days. And so the master classes, Italy, I did Rome, of course. They love Troma Roma. So the master classes are a very, I think, good kind of planting seeds for people to feel inspired because they see if the idiots at Troma can make movies for 40 years, anybody can do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Is this why you made these? Like, what prompted you to it? Do you feel you have something to say about filmmaking that a lot of people don't say in their own filmmaking books?
Yes. Most of the people who write filmmaking books don't make movies. And the best filmmaking books to read, other than the Lloyd Kaufman filmmaking books, the best ones are by the filmmakers.
Yeah.
You know, read Charlie Chaplin's autobiography. Read Joseph von Sternberg, Fun in a Chinese Laundry. Read Sidney Lumet on directing. Read Preston Sturgis. His autobiography is called Between the Flops. Read the people who make the movies. These fuckers who go around lecturing, and you look at their IMDb. They wrote a script 30 years ago that nobody made or whatever. Fuck them. They just it's bullshit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I think it's important, and the problem is most of those guys are trying to show little fuckers who want to suck cock and be Steven Spielberg. You don't learn how to become Steven Spielberg. You are Steven Spielberg. You don't learn that shit from some jerk who never made a movie. No. The way to do it is you have to be Oliver Stone. You have to be Quentin Tarantino. You have to be Lloyd Kaufman. And you can listen to Oliver Stone and Tarantino and Steven Spielberg, but you're not going to learn it from some guy who hasn't made movies.
Okay. Is there... I think this is my final question. If there is like one universal...
Well, what I wanted to really mean is,
yeah.
And unfortunately, so much of the horse shit that is shoved down people's throat by the major media creates this value system that, you know, I have to make a mainstream movie. There is no validity. Movie history didn't begin until Star Wars, you know. So, I'm not even going to look at Howard Hawks or Carl Dreyer or whatever. I'm not even going to... It began with Star Wars, and we have to make movies with Britney Spears, and we have to, they brag about, who's in the movie. It isn't about who's in the movie. It's about who makes the movie, who writes the movie.
Yeah.
It's about the director, writer, and producer of the movie, and it should be one person. It shouldn't be 3 different people.
Right. So
and the kids have to know that. They have to have some confidence that they don't have to be in the system, and they don't have to work for Nordisk Films or whatever. What's the big one nowadays?
That would be Nordisk Films.
Yeah, and they don't have to be there. They can do their own damn thing and be real people and not be a bureaucrat. They can do something real. They don't have to feed off the crumbs of Rupert Murdoch and off of Sony. They can have their own art. They can make some art. Let's make some art.
Right. So if there is one universal piece of advice, like basic advice you would give to aspiring filmmakers, those that haven't made one movie yet, not even a short, if there's one piece of advice you could give them, what would that be?
I would say the most important thing in the entire world is to spend 2 days with Bloody Weekend. Because you can learn so much. There's a man there, a very attractive man, may I say, named Elias Elliott. And this man is just so wise, so talented, and he's not in the room now, so luckily I can I can say the truth because he can't hear me. But I just know that anyone who comes to Bloody Weekend, they will be a better artist for sure, and I think a better person. And then, maybe not so much important, but I think what you have to bear in mind is to thine own self be true.
Yeah.
Do what you believe in. Do what comes from your heart. To thine own self be true. Really, it was a phrase coined by one William Shakespeare, who wrote that great best-selling book, 101 money-making screenplays, 100 money-making screenplay ideas, otherwise known as Hamlet.
Yes.
Very Danish.
Very Danish.
He was a great Danish playwright.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for this.
Well, thank you, and please thank Hans Christian Andersen, because, as you know, The Toxic Avenger is a little-known fairy tale from Hans Christian Andersen. Was found when I was a student at Yale University, and I majored in Danish culture, so I know a lot about Danish stories. And in my research, it turns out that Hans Christian Andersen wrote this lovely, very beautiful fairy tale about a mop boy who unfortunately fell into some toxic nuclear waste. It was a big problem back in Hans Christian Andersen's days.
Definitely.
Nuclear waste. That damn King Christian IV, he kept making atomic bombs and nuclear things, and all that plastic shopping bags all over the place. And the junk food. The Christian, what's his name? Christian Fried Chicken. He had those King Christian Fried Chicken places all over Denmark. Luckily, Bloody Weekend came along and straightened things out.
Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed hearing that interview as much as I did doing it. Lloyd was a perfect gentleman through the whole thing, and he just has so many good points about the art of filmmaking. It was actually his books that really got me started on making shorts at all, and I really hope to make more shorts in the future, but that's a matter for a different time. More videos are on the way. I'm working on making more videos, naturally. It's just that things keep getting in the way for me, but I haven't stopped, and I won't. So I'll see you guys next time.